Okay, well, here we are. Here we are. Just updating Facebook. And of course, it's being complicated as usual. So just bear with me while I'm changing the privacy. There we go. There we go. That's how we do it. That's how we do it. Okay, so we're now live everywhere, and I appreciate you guys spending this Friday with us. This beautiful, beautiful Friday with us. Yeah, Mr. Producer, what they did is they changed the format, and I was fighting with it the other day, and well, I don't want to do that. Um, and I was fighting with it the other day as far as trying to make it the whole thing, just this one picture. I think solo layout, maybe. I don't know how I did it. I probably am going to mess it all up. But yeah, I did it somehow. I forgot how I did it to where I can make it on the Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and KGRDB. It's cut, doesn't show all. I don't know how I did it the other day. I have no idea. But for some reason, it just doesn't want to expand. I don't know. Maybe Mr. Producer can fight. He can fight with it. Okay, everybody. Welcome to the show. Happy Friday to you, everybody. Happy Friday. So, yeah, a couple things, and then we'll get into the presentation. If you want to go to my website, very simple. But first, before you do that, I want you to go to our sponsor's site, and that's kgradb.com. KGRAD as in dog, B as in bicycle.com. And make sure you subscribe there. They have some amazing shows, amazing shows. And but put Bishop as your promo code because you're going to get 30% off your subscription. And they have great shows there, by the way. So this show airs there as well. So kgradb.com. Also, if you like to go to my website, that's simple too. bishopjameslong.com. That's it. bishopjameslong.com, LONG.com. And then finally, if you want to go to the church's website, the church's website is fairly simple, usocc.org. That's it. Now, by the way, on usocc.org, the church is having a retreat coming up on March 14th through the 17th. We don't get paid as clergy. And so we're having ordinations. And so we have some folks who need some assistance because it's expensive. This retreat's not cheap. So if you would like to help any of the clergy, that would be wonderful. They would appreciate that very much. You can just go to usocc.org, click on the retreat button, and you can fill out. You can see the information there if you want to sponsor one of the deacons or Reverend Mother, whatever you would like to do. That would be wonderful. We would certainly appreciate that, and so would they. Again, we do this ministry 100% free, and we love doing it. We love doing it. Okay, so yeah, let's just briefly. I've been out for a little bit. On the 12th of this month, I woke up with severe abdominal pain. It was quite severe, but it progressively even got worse. And I'm the type of person that I will wait to the last minute before I have to go to the hospital. Well, it got so bad that a couple hours before the show, I said I can't do it. There's no way. I got to call the ambulance. I was in trouble, a high temperature, and so I called the ambulance, and they rushed me off to the hospital. The next, of course, so I got there. They did a bunch of tests. This pain that I experienced I played football, and I've experienced a lot of pain in my life from concussions and migraines. This pain, it was as if you put a flame torch in my stomach, in my abdomen, and turned it on full blast. That's exactly what it felt like. 100,000 degree flame torch. It was terrible. So for about 3 hours, I finally was able to get medicine in the hospital, and they told me, well, tomorrow morning you have emergency surgery. What do you mean, emergency surgery? Well, your gallbladder is in trouble. It is dangerously enlarged, and you need to get it removed immediately. So the surgeon said they probably would not be able to do it laparoscopically because apparently the gallbladder had been sick for quite some time, which I didn't know. And it was larger than the size of a softball, which is problematic. It's supposed to be the ping pong. So they could not do it laparoscopically. And so they had to cut me open pretty deep there, pretty wide, and a lot of staples. And the doctor had told me, he said, if you had waited for maybe 1 to 2 more days, the gallbladder probably would have become septic and you probably would have passed away. So it was that dangerous. Yeah, it was a rough time. It was a rough time. But yeah, the recovery wasn't easy, but we're here. So I guess the moral of the story, look, guys, if you don't feel good, don't be stubborn like me. Don't do that. I've learned my lesson. If my body tells me, hey, dummy, get to the hospital, I'm going to say, okay, I better get to the hospital. But I was having a blonde, stubborn moment there on the 12th. I just like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'll take Tums. Tums ain't going to help a gallbladder that's about to, cause problems. So anyway, yeah, I am. I'll be the first to admit I'm stubborn, but this is serious. Take care of yourself, guys. We'll get to the paranormal stuff in a minute. Just take care of yourself. Remember, you have one vessel. You have one body. And the matter of, that could be lights out. I mean, the 11th, I was prepared. I had my show ready to do. We were going to do near-death experiences. Had everything ready to go. Let's go. And the next day, my whole life turned around. So it kind of, when you have these situations, it does make you reflect to slow down. Don't be such a workaholic. And to enjoy life a little bit, but take care of your body. Take care of your body. Because when it's really, really, really sick, and a surgeon comes in and tells you, do you realize you were probably a day or 2 days within you going into septic shock, and you could have died from that. So I think that's the moral of the story here, is make sure you take care of your body. This vessel, we have one vessel, and we've got to make it last as long as we possibly can. So that is the story. I'm glad you're here with us, and I appreciate the prayers. I appreciate the thoughts and the emails, and I'll try to get through as many as I can. But we're pretty far behind, but we're pushing through. We're pushing through. So tonight we're going to be talking about a topic that I think is a very important topic. And yes, by the way, for those of you who don't know, at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to open the chat up, and we'll talk about anything you want to talk about, paranormal related, demonology, anything you want to talk about. So we'll do that. I'm still under pain because it's going to usually takes 6 to 8 weeks to fully recover because there's a massive surgery. So he said about 6 to 8 weeks before the pain, all pain pretty much subsides. And I had the surgery on the 13th. So, I'm only 13 days out. But tonight we're going to talk about a topic that's going to address every one of us, you and me. You're not going to be able to avoid it. You're not going to be able to avoid this topic because it directly relates to you. It directly relates to me and everybody we love. That topic is, one day, you and me, we're going to have our last breath. Thank you very much. Thank you, Joker. You have to remember that we have only a certain amount of beats in the heart. So make them count. And don't waste it on people who want to try to break you down or hurt you or harm you or tell you that you're not good or you're not good enough, whatever it might be. Today, we're going to talk about near-death experiences. And this is a topic that I'm really, really passionate about because every single one of us, no matter what that day is going to be, we're going to have that day where we're going to say, okay, that's it. That's the last breath. So what is it like? Well, I'm going to talk to you also about my near-death experience that I had. I've talked about this before, but I think it's important, and I'll talk about it again. And so, people are asking, that's the doll right over here for Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, KGB, and for TikTok, that is the doll that was on the Legion of Exorcists show. That I was on. I think it was the first episode. So there it is. And nope, I'm not taking it out of its case because I don't need a fire in the place. So, yeah. Okay. So let's talk about near-death experiences. And by the way, I also want to mention February the 9th, I'm going to have a very interesting show. The show is going to be about Scientology. And I appreciate Judy Ann. Judy Ann was able to get an amazing guest on. I've also spoken to an individual. His name is Chris, and he's in LA. And they do a lot of expose of Scientology. So I'll have him on as well. So February the 9th, we're going to do a show on Scientology. And I'm going to be interviewing at 7:30 p.m. on February the 9th, an individual that was in Scientology for over 20 years. Not only was he in Scientology, but he was one of the kind of the big wigs in Scientology. And he's going to tell us everything, the good, the bad, the ugly. And so you're not going to want to miss that show. February the 9th, I had a conversation with him today. It's going to be a pretty powerful show. So if you've ever wanted to know about Scientology, you definitely, absolutely need to make sure you put it on your calendar, February the 9th. Two guests from 7 to 7:30. I'll talk to the individual who is in LA, who is exposing Scientology. And at 7:30, we'll talk to an individual who actually has been in Scientology for over 20 years. He's no longer there. He left Scientology, but he obviously knows everything you need to know or want to know about it. There's a lot of people joining Scientology. But tonight, near-death experiences. How would you define a near-death experience? Well, this is by Raymond Moody, who is a PhD medical doctor. And really, he's the father of near-death experiences. He's the one who kind of coined it. He's the author, by the way, of books that have sold over 20 million copies. And it describes how historical records dating to ancient Greece contain descriptions that are very similar with the modern concept of near-death experiences. And this is how he described it. And it's true. People who come close to death and who have clinically died and later revive sometimes report memories of unusual experiences they had while apparently unconscious. These memory accounts are often said to be recollections of near-death experiences. So, by the way, Moody's book is called Life After Life, if you want to check that out, 1975. He has over 150 contemporary near-death experience stories. So near-death experience typically includes many of the following. Many people who have had NDEs, for now on, I'll say NDE, and you know that means near-death experience. People who have had NDEs say that sometimes the mind leaving the body and traveling upward. Some have said they're passing from dark to a brilliant light, often within a tunnel. And the light, which is often interpreted to be God or the supreme being, it transmits joy, peace, and love and comfort. And many people claim that they have met with and were able to spend time with deceased loved ones and friends and relatives. They have a life review. Some people do, in which they understand the meaning of their life and how they have lived it and how it affected others. Many times when people who have these NDEs, they never wish to leave this unity with the light source of love. They don't want to come back. And they return to our mortal life. Many people, they're angry. Or they say they reluctantly had to go, because it's your time has not come. So here's what's and I got to tell you something, as a person who has had an NDE, I will tell you my story in just a minute. It was I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. I've always believed in life after death. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But when I had my personal NDE and what I experienced, I think amplified my faith even more. Not that I needed that, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Bruce Greyson, who is a medical doctor, he's a professor at the University of Virginia School of Medicine and co-founder of the International Association of Near-Death Studies. In 2013, reviewed postulated scientific explanations of NDE. So including expectancy, birth memories, altered blood gases, he says, REM intrusion, toxic or metabolic hallucinations. So there are some people that try to explain it away. However, he also noted that most people that have NDEs are mentally healthy, and that NDEs must not be confused or equated with depersonalization, disassociation, or post-traumatic stress, which I agree. Now, Dr. Jeffrey Long, I have had him on my show before, a couple times. In my opinion, he's one of the world leading experts on near-death experiences. And he is a medical doctor, and he has the world's largest platform of people who have clinically died and have come back and told their story. So if you want to go to that website, it's ND, as in dog, ERF.org. So it's NDERF.org. And again, I've had him on, and pretty amazing guy. And they have, I think, in 23 different languages, probably maybe even more. So NDERF.org. And this is what he said. He said, my understanding of near-death experiences made me a better doctor. And he says, I face life with more courage and confidence. I believe near-death experiencers really do bring back a piece of the afterlife. When they share their remarkable experiences, I believe a piece of the afterlife in some mysterious way becomes available to us all. Pim van Lommel, who is a medical doctor, is an eminent Dutch cardiologist. He actually conducted prospective studies on patients having cardiac arrest during hospitalizations, and 18% of 344 successfully resuscitated patients, they report having an NDE. Now, some of you are going to say, I know some of you are going to say, well, it's just, it's dreaming or hallucinating, or it could be something of this. But I'm going to destroy every single one of those arguments in just a second, because there's so many people say, well, it's just the brain oxygen deprivation. Okay. He also reports 4 other similarly designed prospective studies that found between 10 and 20% of 562 patients reported having NDEs. And Grayson's study states that over 9 million people in the U.S. have reported having them. Oh my gosh, Isa. So for those of you who don't know, Jeffrey Long, he's a medical doctor. He's a Louisiana radiation oncologist. And he established the nonprofit Near-Death Experience Research Foundation for collecting international reporting and study from NDEs worldwide. Again, NDERF.org. In 2014, Dr. Long elaborates on 9 lines of evidence that converge on the explanation that NDE cannot be scientifically explained or dismissed. And among the most impressive of these 9 are factual reports of events that have occurred in the past or did happen in the future, or that transpired during the person's near-death experiences that were physically remote, otherwise unknowable by the person. So what does that mean? There have been cases where people who were clinically dead during an operation or whatever might be clinically dead, and their body, they felt their soul leave the body. And there's one case, in matter of fact, there were several numbers, I think like 4 different numbers or letters on top of that really bright machine, the bright machine they put down on the body so the surgeon can look, it lights up the body. I don't know what it's called, the lamp, the operation lamp. Well, this person actually had an NDE experience. They left their body, they rose from their body, and they were able to remember that very, very number that's on top of that machine. So that keep in mind, those letters were not visible. So people say, well, I mean, maybe if they wheeled her in and she saw it. No, they were on top of it, where the light was shining. You understand what I'm saying? And the person was able to lift and rise. And then when they came back into their body, they kept repeating it, AFGC, so whatever it is. because they wanted to remember it. And they did. They came back and told the surgeon those letters that were on top of that surgical light. You cannot dismiss that. All the naysayers who's going to naysay, you can't, then explain it. Then explain it, because the surgeon is not going to look on top. Well, let's see what the letters. Oh, it's AGEFC. Did you get that, Mr. Patient? Come on. That is remarkable. Remarkable. Now, I am 100% convinced that life exists outside of death. 100%. You could not convince me otherwise. Dr. Long also says other unaccountable events. Listen to this. There was a patient that was totally blind from birth. And after she had the NDE experience, describing accurately vivid visual events during their resuscitation, and also precise accounts from individuals that were having hypothermic surgery in which they had no pulse, no heart activity, no blood pressure, a flat EEG, in which this individual who was totally blind was able to leave not only her operating room, was able to go into other rooms and see what was going on in these other rooms and report what she saw, in which they were later validated. That is amazing. That's amazing. So I know a lot of you out there right now have a lot of anxiety with death because of the unknown. You don't have to have that. Get rid of the anxiety. Throw it out the window. Throw it out. That's the devil creeping in, trying to convince you that life doesn't exist outside of this existence. And I'm telling you, it does. It absolutely 1,000,000% it does. If you said to me, Bishop Long, I will give you $10 million. And I'll swear on this on the Bible. If you say, Bishop Long, I'll give you $10 million if you just renounce your alleged near-death experience story and say it didn't happen, I'll give you $10 million and I will tell you where you can stick that $10 million. That is how unshakable I am with my experience. And I wish I would pray someone would actually take me on that challenge, because I would do it right in front of every single. I didn't care. $100 million. I don't care. There's no money that you can give me that's going to convince me to renounce what I experienced. None. Because all the money in the world doesn't even compare to the immense joy that I witnessed when I had my own near-death experience. And I'm telling you guys, the immense joy, there are no words. I can't describe it. There are no words. I can't describe it. Now, Dr. Long says, and I'll tell you in a minute, Dr. Long says 96% of NDEs reporting patients to the NDERF.org website, many are highly educated, scientifically trained, and they call their experience real. And it is. Now, look, I believe that we have a spiritual and immortal soul that lives on after death. Eternal life. Now, the question is there any scientific evidence of our soul in the afterlife? Well, near-death experiences, lucid experiences associated with consciousness apart from the body and the brain. It occurs at the time of actual or threatened imminent death. There have people report moving outside their bodies, passing through hospital walls, even being transported to another place, often moving through a tunnel or bright light. Now, let's talk about some elements of the NDEs, okay? There's a term called out-of-body experience, OBE. That is an element that comes with NDEs. It's an out-of-body experience. Your soul leaves your body. The people report feelings of love, joy, peace, painlessness. A lot of people experience a moving in a tunnel, meeting deceased relatives, encountering a loving white light, receiving a life review, suddenly back inside the earthly's body and not being very happy about it. Now, there are skeptics who will say, well, it's a defense mechanism produced by chemicals in the dying brain. Okay, Mr. It's the Purdue's defense mechanism that explained why a woman was able to actually be born blind and then able to come back and tell everybody what was going on in the surgery next door. Let me get back with you on that. Oh, I'm sure he will. Sometimes they'll say it's a lack of oxygen, hallucination, or delusion. That's not a delusion. So how can we know if these are real? There have been over 65 peer-reviewed, 65 medical studies of more than 3,500 NDEs. They're significant scientific studies. Information gathered under clinical conditions by medical doctors. The patients were clinically dead during an NDE. There is no heartbeat. There is flat EEG, no gag reflex. There are fixed pupils. About 10 to 20% of clinical deaths patients report that they maintain consciousness despite the absence of brain function. They can see, they can hear what's going on around them. They can remember what's happening. They know who they are. Medical studies validate the NDE reality. So the confirmed observations of the physical world, when clinically dead, that there's absolutely nothing absolutely to indicate this person is no longer alive. There's also been cases where people have met previously unknown deceased relatives during an NDE, in which they had no information that this person even existed, and then came back and told their family that they saw this, and then that confirmed that they saw something. Now, for the skeptics out there, tell me, how did they do that? Again, there's a blind person that was since birth, and she saw and had an NDE. When you have an NDE, or at least most people, I mean, if the NDE is not violent, but when you have an NDE, a lot of people report, and I will absolutely confirm this, they're no longer fear of death. They have no fear of death anymore. There is a greater compassion and loving attitude. There's a spiritual growth. There's a knowing, not believing, a knowing that God exists. There's an inner peace, a sense of purpose. And these are confirmed observations of the physical world. So when you see all of this, and you actually can medical doctors say, yes, this person is clinically dead, they're going to know whether or not the person is dead or not. Now, for those of you who are interested in the topic, I encourage you to go to the website nderf.org, because I'm going to talk a little bit about what Dr. Long talked to us about when I had him on the show last year. So NDERF, by the way, has over a dozen original NDE research papers posted. It's amazing. I believe it has over 22 different languages. And there's over 100 different foreign countries that have access to this. And over 300,000 pages are read on the website every month, nderf.org. Now, although most people who have come to death say they remember nothing, 10 to 20%, according to the reports, say that they have something happened. That something is often a near-death experience. And yes, and you're right. And some people have had the experience, a near-death experience of not of heaven, but of someplace else. NDEs are relatively more common than you think. A Gallup poll, by the way, it was published in 1982, led to an estimate that 12 to 15 million Americans personally experience an NDE. That's a lot. There is some controversy on how to define what is a near-death experience. Now, researchers have not reached a consensus on how to define it. The research definition that I've used, that an NDE must occur at the time of near death, like a physical compromise so severe that without improvement, permanent, irreversible death would occur. So NDEers are generally unconscious. They are often clinically dead. So NDEs may occur in adults or children. They can occur in atheists and believers. They occur in physicians, scientists, ministers, priests, people from all walks of life. NDEs have reported throughout history. And by the way, here's what's interesting. For those of you who like history, the earliest recorded near-death experience story was from the time of Plato, the philosopher, and from cultures all around the world. And this is an important point, is that you don't have to have physically died, according to Dr. Long, with cessation or breathing or heart function to have an experience like an NDE. So experiences seemingly identical to NDEs associated with clinical death have been reported in a variety of circumstances. So such circumstances may include, for example, non-fatal traffic accidents or mountaineering accidents, childbirth. That's a bit different than NDEs. Experiences similar to NDE are relatively common, according to Dr. Long, in terminally ill patients. But they are actually referred to as deathbed visions. So I think people get that confused, and so did Dr. Long. People get the deathbed visions confused with actual NDE. These experiences may be collectively referred to as NDE-like experiences. So what is clear, according to Dr. Long, is this. An NDE is not a dream. It's not a hallucination. It's not a mental or psychiatric dysfunction. They are real experiences. And virtually all near-death experience and experiencers that he encountered felt that their experience was real, significant, and meaningful. And when asked directly if the experience was a dream-like in any way, every single person who had an NDE experience answered emphatically no. That's pretty powerful. Not one person. And NDE has been extensively documented in medical literature with hundreds of scholarly articles regarding NDE published in the medical scientific literature. Now, skeptics of NDE have not been able to find a plausible biological or physiological explanation for near-death experience. Oh, they'll throw out all kinds of things. And that failure on the part of skeptics explains the large number of varied and generally unaccepted alternative explanations of NDE. Now, Dr. Long says that the reason there are so many skeptical explanations of NDE is that there are no one or several physiological, biological, cultural explanations of NDE that make sense. The level of consciousness during the experience is generally described as fully alert, and even often, as one experiencer described, far more conscious than humanly normal. And these experiences seem quite apart from anything encountered in daily living. So in other words, when I had my experience, I have never experienced that type of love and joy in my life. Never. And it was amplified times 1 billion. And by the way, even the surgeon that I finally got to speak to, he said, yeah, we had an issue there, but he didn't go into detail, but I'll talk about what happened. And he says, but it's true. And here's what's beautiful about this. No two NDEs, according to Dr. Long, are identical. But within a group of experiences, certain patterns become evident. Now, he says, and this is according to Dr. Long, he says our most recent research is based over 2,000 NDEs shared directly to their website. So experiencers describe one or more of the following. And this is according to the website. Number one, difficulty in explaining the NDE. These extraordinary experiences may be difficult to describe in words. I agree. No matter what, no matter how I describe it, there are no words that justify it. 2, it's always associated with life-threatening event. There's generally physical compromise to the point of unconsciousness and even clinically death. 3, there is a separation of consciousness from the body. 1,000,000% yes. So the people who have NDEs, it's viewing their surroundings from a vantage point other than the physical body. Some may see their bodies and often frantic resuscitation efforts. They are generally able to hear what is being said, often to the considerable embarrassment of medical personnel involved in the resuscitation. In the out-of-body state, they are not able to interact physically with anyone or anything. There is often a sense of peace, virtually never discomfort. 1,000,000%, I can verify this. Number 4, the ability to see and hear details of ongoing earthly events. 1,000,000% yes. Which may be close or distant from the body while unconscious. So these details, which may include a pronouncement of death, so they have left their body and the surgeon has declared the pronouncement of death. And it's often later confirmed by others who are generally astonished and mystified that the experiencer was aware of these events while unconscious. Now, he says we even have a few NDEs where the NDEer was on the way to the morgue, or actually in the morgue when they regain consciousness after their near-death experience. And he says in our survey, near-death experiencers were asked, did you observe or hear anything regarding people or events during your experience that could be verified later? And 33.1% said yes. Now, also, number 5, experiencing intensely powerful emotions. And I will absolutely say 100% yes. These emotions may include ecstasy, fear, peace, and calm. He says that most near-death experience individuals are associated with very pleasant emotions, but about 5% that have been reported have been frightening and associated with emotions of fear, judgment, emptiness. Now, he says it should be noted that positive life changes are usually associated with frightening experiences, including a near-death complete absence of fear of death. Number 6, hearing distinctive sounds. And I absolutely 1 million, and I'll tell you mine in just a second. Experiencers may report hearing a variety of unusual sounds or noises. They may be described as pleasant, musical, buzzing, or ringing. Often music is described that is almost always beautiful beyond what is worldly possible. I did not experience that, but I did experience a sound. Some say that they're passing into and through a dark tunnel. So the tunnel is variably described regarding its appearance and size. Now, Dr. Long says we have not encountered an NDEer, person who had an near-death experience, with a claustrophobic sense in the tunnel. So movement in the tunnel may be described as relatively slow or extremely fast, may accelerate in the tunnel. And occasionally another being accompany this tunnel passage, although usually it is traveled alone. Many people report a very bright light is usually seen at the end of the tunnel. And it seems to be the destination of the travel through the tunnel. And here's what's interesting. A tunnel experience is described in 33.8% of people who have had near-death experiences. I did not see the tunnel. Number 8, encounter with a bright, mystical light. I absolutely saw this. The light may be without form. It's often perceived as a being, either a spiritual being or a departed loved one. There's usually associated intense feelings of joy, love, peace associated with this encounter. The light may be seen as at a distance or entered during the experience. And by the way, that light was seen as 64.6% of people who had near-death experiences. And I did see that. Meeting others. The experiencer may encounter other spiritual beings or departed loved ones. I did. For those of you who have lost your little fur babies, I'm going to tell you something, and you need to listen very carefully. Revelation makes it very, very clear that animals will be in heaven with us. I am telling you now, when you get to heaven, your fur baby is going to be there waiting for you. I promise you. Thank you. I promise you they will be there. Our fur babies are angels without wings. And there's one of those beautiful prayers. Lord, please help me be the person my dog or cat thinks that I am. Not so much a cat. A cat's like, whatever, just feed me, go away. But Lord, help me please be the person my dog thinks that I am. And that is so true. So I'm telling you, a lot of you have recently lost a fur baby, and they are our children. They are our babies. I understand that. But I guarantee you, as I know God exists, you will be with them in heaven. and you'll never, ever, ever, never have to worry about departing from them again. Never. That's right. That's right. And Diane, that's a good point. Dog, by the way, it's really cool. It's pretty cool. Interesting. Dog is actually God spelled backwards. Isn't that cool? Now, cat is tack. Cat is like, I'm going to trip you down the stairs or something. I'm going to put a tack on the, but no. I'm a dog person. Please don't beat me up about cats. Yeah, I know. The cats can be loving. But we had a cat, Spanky, and he wasn't very loving. That cat was not a loving cat. But there are some beautiful cats out there. So yeah, meeting others is, by the way, here's what's interesting. Deceased pets have been encountered as well as other animals like birds or butterflies and other beings. People who have had near-death experience report meeting others or animals. 57.3% report that they've seen either the loved ones or an animal. Now, some people have a life review. I did not have a life review. I don't think that was the point of my near-death experience. At times, experiencers are presented. Now, Shannon, my sister's in there. I think she had a life review. She says, experiencers are presented with a rapid, panoramic review of their lives. And this life review may include brief reviews of like moments of their past, of their life. It can be extremely detailed with a presentation of how the experiencers' actions affected others around them. And at times, the experiencer will actually see and feel their actions from another person's perspective and actually feel what the other person felt. So trolls, you better behave. Because when you do the life review, you're going to know how, I'm just saying. Some have received previously unknown information about one's life. There have been, here's really fascinating. There was a case in which a family adopted a baby. They never told the baby that they were adopted. Never. There was never any indication. And this individual where it was clinically passed away, had an NDE experience, a near-death experience. And they saw, and their mother had already, their biological mother had passed. And they met their biological mother. The person came back. Now, explain this to me for those of you who are going to be skeptic. The person came back, and I think this person, like in the 20s, they had a cardiac issue. And they came back and told their parents, their adopted parents, I understand that I was adopted, and I met my mother, biological mother. Her name was this. I need to know if this is true. And they validated it. They verified, yes, you were adopted. We adopted you as a baby. And they never told this person that they were adopted. Now, you can't explain that. Can't explain it. Sometimes people will say they see or visiting beautiful locations. Some people who have near-death experiences travel to beautiful cities, libraries, gardens, beautiful, sometimes shiny bodies of water. Some people say there's a sense of knowing, universal order and purpose. So some experience have a sense of deep understanding of the universe or life's meaning and purpose. Many NDEers state that they were shown enormous knowledge, but cannot return with that knowledge. And others return with their understanding. So in describing universal order and purpose, by far the most common concept discussed is love. The sense of knowing special knowledge, universal order, purpose, that actually people, 56% have reported this after they had a near-death experience. Now, there have been some people who said that they had a reaching a boundary. That means that the boundary may be a gate or a cliff, a fence, or water. There's some barrier which the experiencer perceives you can't cross at that time. If they are to return to the body, they can't cross. But once they cross that boundary, they're going to be there. And a boundary, by the way, was encountered in 31% of near-death experience of surveyed. Some people have an awareness of future life events. Some experience flash forwards in time, like to witness themselves in events at a future time. Such visions may involve the experiencer's future life, maybe, or some global visions could be apocalyptic. Prophecy, by the way, there's a lot of debate on that. Only 22.7% experience that. Here's what's fascinating. Many people who have a near-death experience were, some, not all, were given a decision to return to their body. So the decision to return to the physical body may be voluntary or involuntary. If voluntary, the decision to return is often made following discussion with spiritual beings. It's often associated with unfinished life lessons or responsibilities. Whether voluntary or involuntary, many people report feeling of sadness, loss, depression, anxiety, and even anger may follow because they returned to this life because they didn't want to leave. A conscious decision regarding the return to this life occurred in 30.8%. And sometimes they were just simply saying, oh, sorry, it's not your time yet. You got to go back. But 30.8% report that. Returning to the body, often but not always, feelings of pain associated with a life-threatening injury return. So when you have this out-of-body, this near-death experience, and you're no longer in the body, you're not experiencing the pain. But when whatever spiritual being says to you, I'm sorry, but it's not your time. You got to go back. Or if it's a conscious decision to go back, then it's boom, you're right back in your body and you feel the pain. Now, some people, here's what's really fascinating. Some people report having special gifts when they return. Some experiencers report psychic or other paranormal abilities after a near-death experience. Commonly described is a marked increase in intuitive ability. Another common phenomenon is electrical sensitivity. So when ND ears discover their watches stop and nearby electrical devices, often lights go out. Now, there has never been a good large-scale scientific study of these phenomena. And he says, when we ask ND ears, did you have any psychic, paranormal, or any special gifts following the experience you did not have prior to the experience, 45% answered yes. 45%. That's amazing. In many people who have near-death experiences, there have been changes of attitude, yes, and consciousness and beliefs. And by the way, for those of you, changes in attitudes or beliefs following an NDE are followed by 85% of people who have had near-death experience said that, yes, there was a change in attitude or belief. With me, it added that conviction even much more that there's life after death. I've always had faith that there was life after death. But after I had my experience, no doubt about it. So let me tell you what my experience was. And then I'm going to give you evidence, according to Dr. Long, who is a medical doctor, that absolutely conclusively proves that people who have near-death experiences, that it is valid and they are real. My story. So my mom passed away in 2014. And I was having a surgery and I needed a scope done. My mom was very gifted. And I remember her telling me in 2014, she said, James, don't do it. Don't do the scope. I have a bad feeling about it. You need to go to another doctor. Don't do it. So I decided not to do it because I had a lot of anxiety about it. And she said, just don't do it. Unfortunately, she had passed away then. Then I had contacted another doctor because I needed a scope done. And he checked everything and did all kinds of tests. And he said, you have severe tumors in your stomach. And he said, do you realize that if in 2014, if you had the scope done, or the surgery that I needed, not the scope, the surgery that I needed at a time, you could have bled out. So that could have been life-threatening. Because the previous doctor didn't check. He didn't do a scope. He just said, okay, sure, let's go ahead and do the surgery on you. And had I done that surgery, then the second surgeon said you would have bled out, that we wouldn't have been able to stop. So my mom had that gift So in 2015, I did the scope to check the stomach to see if the tumors had gone away, because there was a lot of anxiety with ministry and things of this nature. This is what happened. Everything was fine. Everything was good. They said, okay, we're going to put the propofol, and they injected the propofol, and they said, okay, count down. I count down, and I was out. The next thing that I knew is I heard this god-awful loud noise behind me. I opened my eyes. This annoying, it was really piercing noise behind me. For some reason, I couldn't turn around and see what it was. It never dawned on me that I was the patient. Never dawned on me. Never. I had no idea. I didn't even really realize where I was. I knew that I was kind of elevated to the point where I looked over to my left and there was a surgeon. He was freaking out. He was screaming something to the person behind me. Do this and do that. He was just panicking. I wasn't in pain or anything. And actually I wanted to talk to them and say, calm down. It's going to be okay. Because it never dawned on me that something had happened to me during this procedure. And I just wanted to calm him down because he was so panicked. And as I was trying to communicate to this surgeon, that's where I saw the light. This light is, now folks, I know what a dream is. I know what a dream is. What my experience was just as vivid as it is right now, even more so. So this is not a dream. This is real. I know it's real. I can pinch myself. It's real. So this light behind this, the surgeon was unbelievably radiant. The brightest light, to the point where I couldn't even see through it. I couldn't, because I remember kind of looking away because it was so bright. And I saw a silhouette walking behind up towards the surgeon. And as she got closer, I could only see the silhouette of a woman, but then she got closer and then I could actually see everything. And it looked like an angel. It looked like an angel. Absolutely beautiful. This is where you can't describe the peace. This is where you can't describe the joy. There are no words. I can't describe it to you because no matter, even if I say unbelievable joy, it's still not the right word. Think of this. Have you ever had one of those days where it was the happiest day of your life and you were in tears and you were thinking life can't get any better? Now multiply that times 1,000,000. And that is not an exaggeration. That is the joy that I saw on this woman's face. It was just that powerful. Didn't say a word. And as I looked closer and I could focus more on her because the light was so bright, I thought, that's Mom. She was young. She was, I would say, in her maybe early 20s or so. Beautiful. The light. I'll never forget the light. The joy, the radiating joy. And the doctor was freaking out. And she plopped her right hand on his shoulder. He then took a deep breath. Now I saw, he went just like that. And I remember him saying something calmly. I couldn't figure out what it was, to this person behind me, who I still couldn't figure out who that was. And then that loud, horrible that noise going off finally went off. And then she smiled, nodded, and faded away. Now, when I came to in the recovery room, my sister was there, and I told her, Jennifer was there. I said, Jennifer, I saw Mom. I saw Mom. I saw Mom. I remember being very, very energetic about that. And she said, James, I know you saw Mom. The whole hospital knows you saw Mom. You were screaming at the top of your lungs nonstop from the operating room to the recovery room that you saw Mom. She said, everybody could hear you. Now, I talked to Dr. Long about this. And he said this: number one, there's no doubt in my mind that you flatlined. You had some type of cardiac experience. And here's why. Number one, there's no dreaming. There's a 0% chance of dreaming in propofol. 0% chance. You don't go into REM, which is called rapid eye movement. So you don't go to sleep. You can't dream. It's not possible. He said, and number two, the fact that your mom worked in cardiology and placed her hand on the doctor's shoulders, she was guiding that surgeon. Now, when I had him live on the show, that never even entered my mind. And when he said that, that kind of took my breath away, because I was like, my God, that's right. Because she was guiding him. And he said, you know that loud noise that was going off behind you? I said, yeah. And he said, that was the anesthesiologist machine going off because you flatlined. He said, when a patient flatlines, it makes a very loud noise to alert the anesthesiologist and the surgeon that you have a cold blue. It means you died. And he said the fact that you were screaming to where your sister could hear you down the hall from the operating room just to the recovery room, he said you couldn't have faked that because you were still in anesthesia. So there was no way you could have faked it. So I'm telling you now, as God is my witness, I saw my mom. You could not offer me $100 million for me to refute my statement. You couldn't do it. I would refuse the money because the story needs to be told. It needs to be told because people have lost loved ones, and I understand they're terrified and maybe scared of death, and perhaps maybe you just recently lost a loved one and you're thinking, are they okay? Yes. Your loved ones are okay. Let me tell you something. I'm not trying to make anybody angry. I'm not. I have friends from all walks of life. And I have friends that are psychic and medium that I truly believe are gifted. Folks, you don't need to go to a psychic for you to know that your family member or your fur baby is resting peacefully in heaven. I'm telling you this, and I'm telling you that, and it doesn't cost you a penny. As God is my witness, I'm telling you, your loved one is resting peacefully in heaven, and you need to be at peace with that. Thank you, Michelle. You need to be at peace with that. Let go of that anxiety. Let it go. Let it go. Be at peace, knowing that this is a temporary stop. This is an experience that we have right now on this earth to share love and compassion with as many people as we possibly can without judgment or condemning others. And you need to know that your family member is there. And I'm going to tell you something. If heaven is only 10%, no, if heaven is only 1% of the joy that I saw in my mother's face, I can't wait to get there. I can't wait to get there. Because I can't explain the joy. I just can't. No matter what I say, I think I do it injustice. And that's a good question. What about the people who may not believe in Jesus, all that? Look, here's the deal. I know a lot of people, and I'm going to say this, and I don't care if I make anybody mad or not. I know atheists who are more Christian than people who claim to be Christian and go to church every single Sunday or Saturday, and then as soon as they leave the church, they're condemning everybody to hell because they think they're God, jury, and the executioner. And I think that it's not we don't need to worry about that. We have a God that is unbelievably generous, that's unbelievably loving and unbelievably caring. And I think eventually every single one of us, we're all going to see the truth when we pass away. And we got to be very, very careful on passing judgment on this person or that judge. We'd have no authority to do so. What we need to do is we need to pray for every single person who passed on and know that God loves you unconditionally. And a lot of people forget this. A lot of people forget that. But I do. I know a lot of people. I know a lot of people who go to church every Saturday and Sunday. Even in church, they're condemning people to hell. But I have atheist friends that are so loving and so compassionate that the moment you say, can you help me? They are there at a heartbeat. They don't care who you are, what your sexuality is, what your religion is. They don't care. If you need help, they're there to help you. Now, if that's not Christianity, I don't know what is. I was going to talk about the 9 lines. Thank you. The 9 lines of evidence. And then we're going to get to your questions. So this is the Dr. Long's 9 lines of absolute evidence that there's no doubt it presented evidence of the afterlife. Thank you, Bill. Thank you. 1, crystal clear consciousness. The level of consciousness and alertness during the NDEs is usually even greater than that experience in everyday life. 100% true. 100% true. Number 2, realistic out-of-body experiences. So out-of-body experiences, or OBEs, are one of the most common elements of people who have had near-death experience. People say, well, why do we call it near-death experience? Well, because you're clinically dead, but we can't say you're dead, because if you're dead, then you don't come back. So that is kind of like when you are clinically dead, but you come back. So people say who have NDEs see and hear of earthly events in the out-of-body state is almost realistic. And which is true. Heightened senses. Not only are heightened senses reported by most people who have NDE, normal or supernormal vision has occurred in those with significantly impaired vision, even legal blindness. Consciousness during anesthesia. Many NDEs occur while under general anesthesia at a time when any conscious experience is impossible. Now, Dr. Long says that some skeptics claim that these NDEs may be the result of too little anesthesia. He says this ignores the fact that some NDEs result from anesthesia overdose. And additionally, the description of NDE differ greatly from that of one who experiences anesthetic awareness. So he says no, that would be incorrect. Perfect playback. Some people have life reviews in near-death experiences include real events that previously took place in their lives of those having they experienced. Family reunions. So during an NDE, people encountered are virtually always deceased. They're usually relatives of the person having the experience. Sometimes they're even relatives who died before the NDE or was even born. Just like I talked to you about this one case where she was adopted. Didn't even know she was adopted. 7, children's experiences. The near-death experiences of children, including very young children who are too young to have developed concepts of death and religion, near-death experiences, are essentially identical to those of other children and adults. And that's important because this refutes the possibility that the content of the NDEs is produced by pre-existing beliefs or cultural conditioning. So people will say, well, this is just a dream. It's a cultural conditioning. No, if you have a small baby or a small child that's able to communicate and comes back and says that they've seen something, then that actually refutes that. Number 8, worldwide consistency. Near-death experiences appear remarkably consistent around the world and across many different religions and cultures. NDEs from non-Western countries are incredibly similar to those that occupy the people in the Western countries. Thank you there, Melinda. And then number 9, after effects. And he says it is common for people to experience major life changes after having near-death experiences. These after effects are often powerful, lasting, life-enhancing, and the changes generally follow a consistent pattern, as the NDEers themselves always believe near-death experiences are in a real world. They're absolutely real. So, folks, I wanted to do this presentation, and hopefully for some of you who've been worried and stressed maybe about, obviously our mortality. You don't have to. You don't have to. You don't have to worry anymore. I'm telling you, I'm seeing sometimes. I'm seeing. I'm glancing at the chat. There's a lot of people out there just watching this show right now who have said, "Yep, I've experienced it. I've experienced an NDE." So quite a few people. Isa says she's in Spreaker. I saw a bright light in the distance shining brightly on her body. It gave me a feeling of peace and made me feel like I needed to stay with my body. There are so many people who have had these experiences. So many people. Can we do it? I would love to know if we can put a vote in the chat room on TikTok, and let's do a poll. How many of you have experienced? Now, don't answer yet. How many of you have experienced a NDE? So if you if we can do this, if someone could, if someone, maybe one of the moderators, if you could put a poll up there, I'm trying to figure a way. I don't know how to do it. Yeah, because I'll probably end up messing it up. I'll probably end up turning it off. I don't know how to do it. But anyway, if you guys can do that, one of the moderators, if you can, well, thank you there, Katie. If you guys can put a poll, I would love to know what the poll says. But there's a lot of people. Michelle says she has, and it was very peaceful. Oh, Diane says one eagle, who is a shaman there, one eagle died at age 2 from polio, but was revived and had feelings and healings and psychic gifts. He feels it came from that experience. Wow. That is amazing. That's the thing. There's so many people. There are so many people. I don't know. I try to figure out how to do this because I would love to do this poll. Quick poll. There. Okay, let me just do it. Yep, let's start. You can only start a poll when the existing. Oh, I guess there's one already in. Okay. Oh, good. Thank you, Jax. Thanks. Oh, see, Razzo, you've had 3. See, Razzo, on YouTube. Can you kind of briefly put what happened to you? Because I would love to read that out. C. Razzo is on watching it on YouTube. And yeah, if you can put that. And Joanne Ryan said it was a beautiful experience. Oh, wow. Look at this. So there's 18 votes. 72% said no. And they've not had an NDE. 28%. 28% said yes. Maybe we should keep that. Let's do it. Maybe we can make the vote a little longer. Let's make that poll a little longer so people can vote. Maybe just do a 2-minute vote. That way, give people enough time. Here's what. Now, I had an experience. It wasn't a near-death experience. I don't know what it was called. But it's kind of weird. But I have had my life flash before my eyes. So when I was going in the seminary, in the Roman seminary, when I was studying for the priesthood, I was at a Benedictine seminary. And unfortunately, they had to close because of finances. So I had to find another seminary to transfer in undergraduate. So I went to Minnesota and St. Paul because I was going to check out that seminary. And then I was going to go down to Loyola University in Chicago from Minnesota. So I remember going to Minnesota, checked out the seminary, wasn't too excited about it. And so I flew then to Chicago. That's where I went. That's where I received my undergraduate degree at Loyola University. It was a nighttime. It was around 9:30. It was severe. They had tornadoes. It was severe. Okay, so here's another poll, 29 votes. Okay, so 35% said yes, they have, and 65% said no. Oh. Thank you for that. So what had happened is we were it was like a 50-seater jet. And it was like 9:30 at night. And there was thunderstorms everywhere. I mean, the lightning was so bright and there was lightning so much that it lit up the whole sky. It looked like it was 3:00 in the afternoon because it was everywhere. And we were shaking. I mean, the plane was scary. And we were getting ready to go in for a landing. Now, I know a little bit about airlines. I used to work for Continental Airlines, and we cross-utilized. We were ramp agent, ticket agent. They cross-utilized us a long time ago. And as we were getting ready we were about a couple, maybe 10, 15 minutes out from landing, and lightning was and we heard a loud pop. And the engines cut off in the plane. The emergency lights came on. The flight attendant ran from the back as fast as she could to the front. She picked up the phone, and her face got very pale. And I knew what had happened because they were trying to turn the APU on. The APU is the auxiliary power unit, so it was quiet. The only thing we could hear is the wind and the thunder outside. And we were getting closer. So we had no power. And we were getting closer and closer to the trees and houses. And I remember the pilot coming on saying, folks, we were just hit by lightning. Prepare for crash landing. So we're thinking, oh, my God, this is terrible. So the flight attendants were screaming, head down, hands down, lay down, head down. So we were bent down. And I remember looking over to my right. And I remember seeing trees maybe 50 feet right below me. And we were not even close to the airport. I don't know where he was going to land. And I truly thought, okay, this is it. This is it. And I knew at that moment, okay, you got to prepare. So I prayed very quickly. And it was very fast from saw myself as a baby, really, really fast to where my life was at that very moment. Unbelievable. And I don't know if you've ever seen those microfilm or in the libraries where you can kind of twist it and it goes really, really fast. It was just like that. So that was the only time I actually had my life flashing before my eyes, because I thought we were dead. I thought that there's no way we're not going to make this. And so while we were going down, I heard the APU. I heard them trying to kick it on. It came on, and the engines kicked on. I mean, it full force. We jerked back in our seat. Well, a lady actually broke her seat because we jerked back so fast because it was full force. And I would say by that time we were maybe 20 feet, maybe even a little less, from hitting trees and houses. And we were able to go back up. And so we went around. He said he's going to try to land. We're going to get this on the ground. So we had it still crash landing. And we hit hard. But we landed. And that was the only time. It was terrifying. But you know what? At the same time, it was, I surrendered. I said, okay, I can't control it. I can't stop it. And I remember my words, okay, God, into your hands I commend my spirit. The prayer that Christ said on the cross. And I was like, okay, that's it. I'm ready to go. And so that's when my life flashed before my eyes. It was unbelievably fast, crazy fast. But yeah, that was an experience. You remember the story in the news? That was scary. I'm telling you, that was a frightening storm. And we hit hard. I swore I was surprised that we didn't pop tires, because I mean we hit. But in Chicago, I was one of the people. Continental Airlines, it was the flight that I was on, the 50-seater jet. It was Continental Airlines, and man, when we landed and he finally came to a stop, people applauded and people were crying. And it was on the news because it was severe weather, severe, dangerous. But yeah, crazy stuff. Okay, C. Razzle says, 5 years old, you were pushed into a pool. And Razzle says, I actually drowned. I woke up days later, and since then I have had a lot of paranormal experiences. After that, had 2 additional experiences. Wow. That was amazing. Thank you, Michelle. And for those of you who have offered gifts to the ministry, to TikTok, if I have not said thank you, I apologize. It's only because I'm running the show on 2 different computers. And by the way, I want to remind everybody that I'm not leaving. March 14th through the 17th, the church has a retreat. We are going to ordain 3 beautiful people to the priesthood. We also have individuals who are going to make their perpetual vows to the Benedictine community. You're invited. If you we're going to have a beautiful celebration. I'm going to be giving several lectures on several different topics as well. If you want to go to it, you need to contact Todd Hall. Todd Hall, it's in Columbia, Illinois. And you got to contact them and say, hey, look, I want to book a room for this day. And they have food there as well. So you just book all that. And so you're invited. However, here's what please do me a favor, if you would. If you are able to, and I understand if you can't, but if you are able, please go to usocc.org and click on the retreat button. Our clergy, we do not get paid as clergy. We don't receive a paycheck. We don't receive retirement. We receive no stipends. We pay for the ministry out of our own pocket because we're deeply passionate about helping people. So the individuals who are going to be ordained, and Reverend Mother, she's going to be there. She's a liturgical director. They need a little assistance on paying for it because it's expensive. It's going to be about $400 a person. It's a lot of money. So if you can, please go to usocc.org, click on the retreat button, and we have the 3 deacons. We have the Reverend Mother there. And if you can make a donation to help them, that would be beautiful. And they would greatly appreciate it. Of course, they'll send you a thank you letter as well. And that would be very nice. So thank you for those of you who do that. And I understand if you can't, that's okay too. Just keep them in your prayers. But if you are blessed and you're able to, that'd be beautiful. Okay. Alice is asking a question. Do the NDE near-death experiencers, where people end up going to the other place and back, ever scare you? Because these stories scare me, honestly. Yeah, they don't scare me. Now, they do scare the people that had that experience. So the people who have had a near-death experience, they were clinically dead, but they went to some other location and they didn't experience the positive. It changed their life. Most of the people who have had that type of experience changed their life completely. The total outlook on it. Oh, you're very welcome. So I think, look, a lot of people are afraid. A lot of people are afraid of what happens after death. And a lot of people are afraid. I don't want to, I don't want to go to hell. Listen. Human beings have done a true disservice to Christianity throughout the years, throughout the decades, the centuries. They have done such terrible disservice. Some people who call themselves pastors preach fire, hell, and brimstone, and that's it. And they scare people, making think that if you sin, you're automatically going to go to hell. Let me tell you something. That is not Christianity. That is man's distortion of Christianity. If you love people and you try to be compassionate to others, you try to help people, you love God, you do the best you can, then yeah, you're going to sin. We all sin. But if you live your life and you try to help others, you try to show love and compassion to as many people as you possibly can, then I'm telling you this, just as I know for a fact that I had a near-death experience, I also know that you and me one day will be reunited in paradise. Don't get it twisted with all these people who want to preach a God of fire, hell, and brimstone. That is absurd. It is idiotic. Hell exists. And I'll tell you why. People say, well, why would an all-loving God create a place like hell? That doesn't sound very loving. It is not God's desire for any of us to go to hell at all. Actually, let me give you a little bit of a theological insight here. It would actually be an evil God who would force you to spend eternity with God in heaven if that's not where you want it to be. That would be an evil God. But we have a God that is all loving, truly all loving, unconditional loving, that he even allows you, if you choose, not to spend eternity with him. We created hell. Hell is a place where people who choose to reject God go. Do you understand? That people who have no desire to be with God, they don't want to be with God, they don't want to live with God, they don't want to be united with God. So God, in his unconditional love and grace, allows hell to exist. Not because he desires it, but because that is unconditional love. Conditional love is I'm forcing you to be united with me, whether you like it or not. That's not a God that we have. So friends, stop worrying about hell. Stop worrying about fire, hell, and brimstone. Love God with all your heart, soul, and mind and body. Be as good as a person as you possibly can. Yep, you're going to sin. Stop beating yourself up over it. Stop it. And try to show love and compassion to as many people as you possibly can. You do those two things, be at peace. Then be at peace. And then see, death no longer has control over you. You no longer fear it. And that's what you have to always remember. So yeah. Oh yeah, wow. That is crazy. Yeah, I tell you, a lot of people experience these things. It's amazing. It is amazing. By the way, I want to mention a couple things here. And if you have any questions, feel free to jump in and say, "Hey, look, I have a question here." I'll do the best I can with my limited knowledge to answer them. This was in Eureka Springs, Arkansas. So if you're in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, well, folks, guess what? It's a 13th annual Eureka Springs Paranormal Weekend is going on now. By the way, I have been asked if I would be willing to go back to I believe it's in Arkansas. It's at the Military Museum. I'll find Arkansas Paranormal, I think. They asked me if I would. I couldn't do it last year because I got sick. But they asked me if I would, because a lot of people were disappointed that I couldn't make it. So they asked me if I would be able to go there. Then this year I am going to be. I'm going to make it there. It's closer to Halloween, and I will let you guys know when that happens. That way, if you're going to be in Arkansas in that area, because they do this for it's a historical building, for a military building, which I love our military men and women. I'm a strong supporter of our first responders and our military men and women. And so I really wanted to go last year, but I just couldn't make it. But this year they asked me if I would be willing to. I said, "Yep, I'm gonna make it." So I'll let you know. I'll promise you, I'll let you know. But by the way, this weekend, Eureka Springs, Arkansas, it's the 13th annual Eureka Springs Paranormal Weekend is now underway. And it is taking place at America's most haunted hotel, the 1886 Crescent Hotel. You can now purchase your tickets for a 48-hour paranormal investigation, but be careful. Led by hotel ghost tour guides. The event will include overnight ghost hunts, hands-on exploration of unexplained phenomena, and exploring the hotel's most haunted areas. By the way, the ticket going to cover the guided investigations, exclusive behind-the-scenes access, informative seminars on the hotel's history, and training to become an effective investigator. So there will be 2 weekend availables to participate. Well, today and to the 28th. And then February the 2nd through the 4th. And breakfast will be provided on Sunday for ticket holders. So if you can go there, you can just check out, I just type in, Arkansas. Yeah, the 13th annual Eureka Springs Paranormal Weekend. So if you just type in Google Eureka Springs Paranormal Weekend, that information I'm sure will pull up for you, and you'll be able to go there and check it out. Well, absolutely. Here is another one. Right. I love the way the joy you felt was God. Was it the Father, Son, or Holy Spirit? All three. All three. Here's what's interesting. I saw this when they came in Louisville, and I want to pass this on to you. And I'm going to be fair, and I'm going to be honest. I'm sometimes brutally honest. Thank you there, Maggie. But this is a paranormal cirque. It's in El Paso, Texas. It's a horror-themed roadshow is bringing its brand of theater, circus, and cabaret entertainment to the borderland. Paranormal Cirque will be at the Mesilla Valley Mall in Las Cruces from February 15th to the 19th, and at the shops at Solana. That's the former Sunland Park Mall in El Paso from February 22nd to 25th. It says a European-style show, which is being advertised as an adrenaline-filled and not for the faint of heart, will feature circus acts such as the Wheel of Death, Mystifying Magic, and more. Even though the show is aimed at mature audiences, people under the age 18 can attend if they're being accompanied by a parent or guardian. Here's what I'm going to say about this Paranormal Cirque, because people are always asking me about this. I saw it when it was in Louisville. I didn't like it. I'm sorry. And I got to tell you why I didn't like it. I felt it was very evil. It seemed very dark. And I know it's paranormal related. I get it. But it seemed to me almost glorifying darkness. And I thought, no, I can't subscribe to this. So I want to tell you, if you're going to check it out, if you wouldn't want to check it out, it was too much. It was too much of the darkness. And darkness, I'm not talking about the lights. I'm talking about, it felt demonic. And so I eventually got up and left. I said, nope, I'm done. Oh, you saw Four Monks, huh? Okay. Listen to this story. I don't like this. I don't like this at all. And by the way, tomorrow I'm going to be here with Miss Wilma. Yes, Miss Wilma and I are finally back tomorrow since I have been sick. We're going to be here tomorrow. Here's the deal. Just listen carefully. From 8 to 8:30, Miss Wilma and I just goof off. We have a good time. She tells jokes. We just have a good time from 8 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard. And then at 8:30, I answer all your questions. Open it up. We chat. We go from there. So just from 8 to 8:30, just understand if you show up and you say, what is this? Well, I don't understand what. Again, it's just Miss Wilma. She's 68 years old. By the way, tomorrow is her birthday. Tomorrow is Miss Wilma's birthday. And she'll be a whopping 69 years old. She has heart failure. She has multiple sclerosis. She has a lot of health issues, but she comes on and she tries to put a smile on your face. So if you've never seen it, join us tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard. Listen to this. This is problematic. This is really problematic to this story. Hello, Bishop Long. Do you have any advice or opinions regarding closing mirror portals? I feel like God has given me a gift in doing this. My first time was instinctual, like God was guiding, protecting me, but I feel like a training guide. So here's what I do. Anytime when I type closing of this, I always make the sign of the cross in 3 places. I seal this area in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. May nothing evil come through this, and may it always be a radiant light of Christ. Something of this nature, and that is how I seal. Now, some people have other more elaborate, and that's fine. That's fine. But that's how I do this. Tomorrow, listen, this is by The Guardian. You know, there's a lot of countries that are in Antarctica right now. What are they doing in Antarctica? Can someone please tell me, what are they doing? Well, here's a big problem. This is in Siberia. An Arctic zombie virus. This is by The Guardian. This is not by one of those, fluffy magazines. An Arctic zombie viruses in Siberia could spark terrifying new pandemic. Scientists are actually warning. A threat of outbreak from microbes tapped in permafrost for millennia, raised by increased Siberian shipping activity. Says humanity is facing a bizarre new pandemic threat. Scientists have warned ancient viruses frozen in the Arctic, permafrost, could one day be released by Earth's warming climate and unleash a major disease outbreak, they say. Strains of these Methuselah microbes, or zombie viruses, as they are also known, have already been isolated by researchers who have raised fears that a new global medical emergency could be triggered. Well, wonderful. Not by an illness new to science, but by a disease from the distant past. As a result, scientists have begun planning an Arctic monitoring network that would pinpoint early cases of a disease caused by ancient microorganisms. Additionally, it would provide quarantine and expert medical treatment for infected people in a bid to contain an outbreak and prevent infected people from leaving the region. So at the moment, quote, at the moment, analysis of pandemic threats focuses on diseases that might emerge in southern regions and then spread north, said Jean Michael Clave of the university. Now, by contrast, little attention has been given to an outbreak that might emerge in the far north and then travel south. and that is an oversight, I believe. There are viruses up there that have the potential to infect humans and start a new disease outbreak. This point was backed by virologist Marion Kumpens of the medical center in Rotterdam. She says, we don't know, we don't know what viruses are lying out there in the permafrost, but I think there's a real risk that there might be one capable of triggering a disease outbreak, say of an ancient form of polio. We have to assume that something like this could happen. See, in 2014, Clavier led a team of scientists who isolated live viruses in Siberia and showed they could still infect single-cell organisms, even though they have been buried in permafrost for thousands of years. Further research published last year revealed the existence of several different viral strains from several different sites in Siberia and showed these could infect cultured cells. One virus sample was 48,500 years old. The viruses were isolated, were only able to infect certain individuals and pose no risk to humans. However, that does not mean that other viruses currently frozen in the permafrost might not be able to trigger illnesses in humans. She said, we have identified genomic traces of pox viruses, and they're well known of human pathogens. This is crazy. So there are some terrible viruses in there that almost imitate like a zombie virus. And what they're basically calling this is that it affects the brain, it affects the central nervous system, and it ultimately turns people or creatures into these zombies, if you will. We are getting this. I'm telling you, something is happening. I don't know what in the world it is, but I don't like it. We got to be very careful about this. We have to be really, really careful. Yeah, we just don't know. You know, we have no idea what's okay. Guess what, sir, you are? Huh? Guess what, sir, you are? Guess what, sir, you are? You have to help me out, as Mary. I don't understand. Yeah, but it's kind of crazy. Yeah, but Miss Wilma will be here tomorrow. Okay. Yeah, I agree. I don't like this. I'm not a big fan of it. And hopefully it doesn't get too crazy. Okay, this is by Outkick. I saw this the other day, and I wanted to pass this on. I agree. Don't be anxious. Don't be anxious. Just be aware. Yeah. But we got to stop playing with these. We got to stop playing with these viruses. This is by David Hookstead, Outkick reader and former cop. Shares 2 insane paranormal experiences. Pretty cool. Outkick readers now know that the paranormal and UFOs are all the craze these days. And one reader reached out with a pair of stories that are nothing short of shocking. So he says, as I often say, there seems to be new UFO, Bigfoot, aliens, paranormal stories in the news every single day. You can't hop on the internet without seeing recently released footage or hearing another first-person account. Well, he says, buckle up, because we have a pair of doozy stories for you straight from an Outkick reader. So here it is. It says, I was contacted at David at Hookstead Outkick, the email, Thursday, who identified himself by his real name and his work history as a police officer at a very large police department in New York. For the sake of the article, we'll be calling him Fred. Okay. Why had Fred reached out? Well, he was intrigued by our coverage and wanted to share some of his own stories. After a little convincing, he agreed to allow me to share them publicly. So here's what he said. Story number 1. The first story from Fred, who is a police officer, revolves around a creature hitting his squad car while he was on patrol in 1982. Then here's your story. Crazy. It says, on patrol one evening during a typical cool evening, a dense fog bank settled in, and I had to sign out of service simply because I couldn't see the road for more than a dozen feet or so. I started to do some normal paperwork, and something ran into the front left fender of my patrol car. Whatever it was large enough to shake my patrol car, and I saw it fall down, apparently injured. I exited my car and assumed it was a deer or small bear. When I got out of the car, I saw a dent in the fender. And when I got out to the front of the car, I saw a creature lying on the ground. Fred explained. A creature. Now, this police officer elaborated. He says it was moving, and when it stood up, I certainly knew it wasn't a normal animal of any type. It was kind of oval shaped with long, spindly legs and arms, with a rather long feet and hands with equally long fingers and toes. It was a dully gray color all over with no visible hair or fur. It started to walk away slowly, and after a few steps, it moved rather fast into a nearby yard, and then I lost sight of it. I assumed I was doing this over maybe 15 or so minutes, but when logging into the service again, I discovered I was at that location for over an hour. So the experience was so jarring and stunning that it caused him to question what was going on even in his mind. Says, what I saw was definitely not the usual gray we hear so much about when I question my own experience. There was this dent in the car to show that it was real. And he says, in my lifetime, I've seen 3 objects of unknown type. And with this occurrence being the only being I have ever encountered. It was not hostile. And at best, I would say it was simply curious. So the now retired former police officer explained. His story involving an unknown paranormal creature had definitely sparked the writer's interest. He says, I know someone back in Wisconsin who once called me so shaken after a similar experience. A few days later, it made the local news after some hunters allegedly encountered something similar. What in the world is this? I mean, it's kind of crazy. Well, this was in 1982. And here's the thing. This is why I love these stories. So he's a retired police officer. He has nothing to gain from lying. He has nothing to gain. And when you hear stories like this, it kind of makes you scratch your head and say, well, that's pretty interesting. Listen to this one. It says, turns out Fred wasn't alone in his paranormal experience and saw footage of a creature sharing a similar resemblance to whatever his car. So, quote, about 2 years ago, my wife and I were scanning the television, looking for a show to watch, and we saw a fuzzy video taken by a person's security camera by their patio. It was grainy, but showed a creature exactly like the one I saw in person, which at most was just outside my arm's reach. When I first saw the creature, I envisioned it with knees that were backwards, but the video I saw showed the knees were normal, but the legs were widely skewed or compressed. I figured if the legs were fully extended, they would make the creature appear to be 7 to 9 feet tall. But as it was, it only looked to be about maybe 5 or 6 feet tall. Fred explained. The writer says, I'll be the first to admit the details sound a bit crazy, but given my experience back to Wisconsin with my close contact in the hunters, says I was in a state of shock hearing Fred's story. That's pretty fascinating. Yeah, I don't know. We're live. Here's incident number 2 with Fred. Listen to this one. Turns out Fred has a bit of his own experience with something even more interesting. And it happened right near a military location. So this is Fred's story. He's a retired police officer. In 1973 or so, New York State Parkway Police had a pursuit on southbound Meadowbrook Parkway, chasing a vehicle well in excess of 100 miles per hour. He said, since my sector was mostly residential, my RMP was a standard vehicle, no way capable of that kind of speed. So I simply sat at the nearest parkway exit to observe. Fred explained to me when recalling the incident. Sounds pretty normal. Okay. Then the police officer said this. The pursued vehicle passed my location at about 130 miles per hour and went under the overpass to one exit, just like you would imagine. After passing under the next exit, this vehicle went airborne and simply flew away. Now, this is from a retired police officer. None of the overpasses are high enough for any type of plane or helicopter. Since this area is swampy, marine units and divers searched the waters and found nothing, not even any tire tracks leading to the water. This pursuit was observed by at least a dozen officers, and not one has ever mentioned this. He says, until I just mentioned it. So Fred told me, sounds crazy. And he further explained, this was like a Nike missile station a few miles south of this occurrence. And we assumed it had something to do with the military. The Nike missile base was in Lido, just east of Long Beach, New York. He said, my memory of these occurrences is quite clear. And I could probably place you within 20 feet of exactly where I was when it happened. What in the world is that? Now, The United States had active missile sites at the time of the alleged incident in the exact area Fred says it happened in. But we know that the United States, 130 miles per hour car flying down the road, and then all of a sudden it goes airborne and it flies off. The writer says we know thanks to countless videos, many UFOs and unexplained objects seem very interested in our military locations. New technology or something more sinister? I don't know. So I think this is, again, it's by David Hookstead from Outkick. That's crazy. I have no idea. People have asked me I don't know what that thing was. Could it be a UFO? I don't know. Would cleansing from a priest work if the person isn't Christian? Well, that's very interesting. Why would a non-Christian want a priest to come do a blessing? Is what I'd be more interested in knowing. But see, here that's a tough question to ask, because Tara Lee, you have to understand, when you ask a question like that, I always want to know what caused it in the first place. So if let's say there's a demonic activity in a home, then my goal is to find out what caused it. That's just as important as the minor rite of exorcism. You have to know what caused it. There's always a reason. It doesn't happen just because. So what I do is, once I find out, then we can go from there. And many times it could be because maybe a person did something that they shouldn't have done, opened themselves up, gave the invitation, whatever it might have been, or it could have been a pre-existing haunting. So there's a variety of reasons as to why violent activity may occur in your home. Okay. What? Is a sinister people that won't let me comment? That's what sinister they have. Well, you're commenting right now, so I don't understand. So you are commenting. Okay. Yep. Yeah, I got the doll. This is the doll from the Legion of Exorcists show. And this is the doll. I will not take it out of its case. But yep, that's the doll. I'll never forget that story. I'll never forget. I told this before. This is it. This is the doll. So I was at Louisville Mid-South Paranormal Conference in Louisville, Kentucky. And I brought this doll, and I was telling the story about what happened, about the family brought this in, and within very little time, their house completely burned down to nothing. And the only thing that remained within all the ashes was an ornate metal book stand and this doll sitting all around the top of it. And it looks, you can see there's burnt marks on it, and you can even still smell the burnt. But someone asked me, they kept asking me to take it out. Idol worship? No, I don't worship this. Is that what you're asking? I don't. But they asked me to take it out. I was like, no, I'm not going to. But I did. And because they kept on. And so I know it's kind of hard to see, but there it is. But so I took it out of its case, and I held it to people, and people were like, "Oh no, put it back. We don't want it. We don't want it." It was just an overwhelming, just a heaviness came in the room, and everybody. It was a room full of people in the paranormal conference. They're like, "No, put it back." So I was getting ready to put it back in its case, and someone asked me a question, and I got distracted, and I didn't put it in its case. I put it next to my laptop, and I've been saving for a long time for a brand new laptop. So I put it next to it. I turn around to address the question, and a firefighter in the first row, Bishop Long, turn around, your laptop is on fire. I turned around, my laptop was on fire. Now, I was angry with myself because I can't believe I got distracted and I didn't put it back in its case. But you hear about haunted items all the time. But this was witnessed by a room full of people, where you actually saw the smoke, you saw the flame coming out of my laptop. And of course, it destroyed the laptop, and I couldn't take it back and say, "Hey, by the way, I put a haunted item next to it and it burnt in flames." I don't think the warranty covers that. So that was, that was frustrating. Man, that was frustrating. But yeah, it stays in this box. I don't take it out ever. And I won't. I do. People ask me all the time, "Well, why do you have these things?" Okay, folks, as an educator, And it probably does move. I'm sure it is moving. As an educator, I have a master's of education, and I understand teaching methodologies. So I used to teach kids with special needs, with behavior and learning disabilities, and everybody learns differently. So if I teach you and I tell you, well, there's a doll and it's a haunted doll and there's well, that's one thing. But if you actually see it and you're in the presence of it, then people who learn differently will get the point. Okay, now we understand it. So what I do is I take items that people collect, and then they take them into their homes and violent activity begins. And I say, remove it, and I will bless it, and I will teach you what you need to do in your home so that no more activity occurs. And if I need to come out to your home, perform the minor rite of exorcism, I will. So I collect these items to teach you guys about the dangers of collecting these things. Now, I actually have, I don't have them with me. I'll do a presentation one day again on haunted items. I have John Wayne Gacy's. I have several of his original paintings that people have, and I got a brand new painting that a family member purchased. Why do people do this? And then violent activity occurred in their home. So I have a brand new painting that I've never showed anybody, so I'll have to show that to you guys. But I think I have now 3 or 4 of John Wayne Gacy's paintings. I have a pair of Jeffrey Dahmer's glasses, and he sold those because he had. John Wayne Gacy sold his paintings because he needed to raise money for his defense. Same thing with Dahmer. So someone sent him a message saying, hey, look, can you sell me something? I'll buy something. And Dahmer, he needed a defense. And so he sold an old pair of glasses. So I actually have a pair of Dahmer's glasses. But I have a lot of other things as well. And then people collect these things, and then violent activity occurs in their home. And so I bring some of these, John Wayne Gacy, he was a serial killer, and he it was terrible what he did. If you Google John Wayne Gacy, matter of fact, there's a movie called Gacy, Gacy. Thank you, James. How do you get saved? Accept Jesus Christ, your personal Lord and Savior. So this is what does the Catholic include the words in love? Why is the Catholic salvation message? Include the words in love? And love is translated by works. Well, because James says faith without works is dead. St. James says this. So in other words, you can call yourself a Christian all day long, but if your actions don't back up your statement, then your faith is dead, according to St. James. Anybody can call yourself a Christian. That's easy. But Christian is a noun and a verb. So St. James would say, but your actions need to back up the statement, I'm a Christian. And what are your actions? Not because you can gain your way into heaven, but because you show love and compassion to everyone. So there we are. Yes, I have a valid apostolic succession all the way to Peter. The Roman Catholic Church in Dominus Jesus, that was written by St. Pope John Paul and Pope Benedict, states that any church that has valid apostolic succession is considered validly Catholic. I have a 110-page document that shows my apostolic succession all the way to Peter. I studied in the Roman Catholic Seminary for 6 years. I received my minor orders there, received the study with the Benedictines and the Jesuits, and I have an earned doctorate of ministry, a Master of Divinity, a Master of Education, a Master of Business, a Bachelor of Communication and Journalism, and an Associate of Philosophy. So there we go. Okay. So, howdy, thank you. So if you have any other questions, I'll be more than happy to jump in and answer them. And what is consecrating? Well, are you talking about consecrating individuals? Me too, Mandy. When will the Pope sanctify and blame marriages? I don't understand. Other dimensions, it's interesting. I tell you what, Mr. Medic says this. Mr. Medic says, thank you, Mr. Producer. Mr. Medic says, Bishop, what are your thoughts on other dimensions? I got to tell you something. Other dimensions are pretty fascinating. They fascinate me because there's an argument, there's a belief that we are living in multi-dimensions or even parallel universes, that believe that there is a James Long in other parallel universes that look identical to me, but perhaps maybe they live a different life. Maybe one is a police officer. Maybe one is a a cop, maybe one, or whatever, a teacher, or it really is fascinating with these other dimensions. I would like to bring some, but the problem is that when you talk about dimensions, you have to be able to explain it in layman's term because it can be so difficult with the terminology. It's called jargon terms, and jargon terms can really kind of throw people. It's like, for example, if two jargon terms, meaning if two surgeons got together and talked about heart surgery, most of us would say, huh? What does that mean? What does that work? Because we don't use that terminology. It's the same way for astrophysicists. When they get together and talk about multi-dimensions or universes, sometimes it could be like, okay, you're going to have to lower this down to layman's term. It's difficult to find somebody who's able to speak about multi-dimensions in layman's terms. I would love to do that. That would be a fascinating show one day. Okay, don't go anywhere. TikTok, I'm going to stay with you guys. For those of you who are in Spreaker, I have to run, so have a beautiful night. It goes by so fast, daggone. But I'm going to stay on TikTok for a little bit longer. So you don't go anywhere. Tomorrow I will be here from 8 until whenever. From 8 to 8:30, Miss Wilma and I will be having a wonderful conversation. We'll be goofing off, and then 8:30, I answer questions. By the way, February the 9th, put it on your calendars, folks. February the 9th, I'm going to be doing a presentation on Scientology. And I'm going to be interviewing an individual who had spent over 20 years in Scientology, who was kind of a bigwig. He was a spokesperson. So he knows all the ins and outs on Scientology, the good, the bad, the ugly. And I'm also going to be talking about talking to an individual. His name is Chris, great guy. He's in Los Angeles. And he and a group of people are doing kind of an expose of Scientology. They show up with cameras. They're trying to get people to talk to them. He has a lot to say too. So that's going to be February the 9th. So you're not going to want to miss that show. Make sure you put that Scientology. It's a fascinating story. Again, TikTok, don't go anywhere. Remember, friends, I tell you always that your value does not decrease based on someone's inability or refusal to see your worth. You are priceless. Don't let anybody tell you or convince you otherwise. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, KGRADB Radio. God bless.
The Sacred Division has been brought to you by Bishop Long's online paranormal course. Learn demonology, angelology, paranormal studies, and genealogy. It's 100% online, and you learn at your own pace. Please go to www.bishopjameslong.com and click on the paranormal course link.